If you've ever owned a car, you know that little jolt of dread when the check engine light pops on. And if you've ever plugged in a scanner and seen the code P0420, well, you know that sinking feeling. So today we're going to crack that code, figure out exactly what it means, and, most importantly, what you should do about it.
Yep, there it is, that glowing little engine symbol on your dash. You grab the scanner, plug it in, and it spits out that one code, P0420. It's a moment that can make any driver nervous, for sure. But don't panic, let's break down what's actually going on under the hood.
All right, first things first. We need to translate this code from, computer speak into plain English. Let's figure out what your car is trying so desperately to tell you with this specific error. So, officially, P0420 stands for Catalyst System Efficiency Below Threshold on Bank 1. Phew. In simple terms, your car's main computer, the ECU, has been watching your catalytic converter and it's decided it's just not working as well as it should be. The standard is about 95% efficiency, and your car is basically raising its hand and saying, hey, we've dropped below that critical level.
The easiest way to picture all this is to imagine your exhaust system has a couple reporters. These are your oxygen sensors, and their whole job is to watch a pollution-burning furnace. That's your catalytic converter. The entire system's health really depends on these two reporters filing accurate stories. Now, these two reporters, they have very different assignments. The upstream sensor, the one up front, is measuring the raw, dirty exhaust that's coming right out of the engine. Meanwhile, the downstream or rear sensor is way back, measuring the much cleaner exhaust after it's gone through that catalytic converter furnace. And your car's computer, it's constantly comparing the reports to see if that furnace is actually doing its job.
And this, right here, is what it all comes down to. In a perfectly healthy car, that downstream sensors report is nice and stable, pretty calm, and looks totally different from the upstream one. But that P0420 code gets triggered when the downstream report starts looking almost identical to the upstream one. That's the big red flag for the computer that the converter has pretty much stopped cleaning the exhaust.
Okay, so we know the converter isn't working right, but here's the twist, and it's a big one. The converter is often just the final victim. It's the symptom of another problem entirely. So let's go unmask the real culprits.
So what could actually be causing this mess? I mean, yeah, the converter could have just worn out over time. It happens. But it's way more likely that the problem is something else, like a faulty O2 sensor giving bad data, or a tiny exhaust leak that's throwing off the readings, or even an engine misfire that's dumping raw fuel into the exhaust and literally poisoning the converter.
Listen, if you remember only one thing from this whole explainer, make it this. The P0420 code is almost always a symptom. If you just rush out and replace the converter without finding the root cause, you're just throwing a ton of money down the drain, because that shiny new converter is probably going to fail in the exact same way.
So how do you avoid that super costly mistake? Easy. You follow a smart, step-by-step diagnostic process. Let's walk through the investigation guide to finding the real problem. Okay, here's your game plan. Step 1, check for other codes. Got a misfire code, a fuel system code? You have to fix those first, because they are often the real villain here. Step 2, get your eyes on it. Do a visual check of the exhaust system for any obvious cracks or rust holes. And third, the final, definitive test, looking at the live data from our two O2 sensor reporters.
Now, with the scan tool, this is what you want to see. This is a healthy system. See how the upstream sensor on the left is switching like crazy? That's good, it's supposed to do that. But look at the downstream sensor on the right. See how it's relatively flat and steady? That is the beautiful sign of a perfectly working converter, just smoothing everything out.
And here it is. This is the smoking gun. In a system that's throwing a P0420 code, that downstream sensor's signal starts to mirror the upstream one. Look at it. It's cycling just as rapidly. This is the visual proof. It shows the catalytic converter isn't storing and releasing oxygen anymore. It's basically become a hollow pipe, and that dirty exhaust is just flowing straight through.
So once you've seen that data, you know for sure the converter has failed. But just knowing what's wrong isn't the same as knowing what to fix. So let's talk about the smart way to get your car back on the road without breaking the bank.
Why is this whole diagnostic process so incredibly important? Well, because of this number. Replacing a catalytic converter is one of the most expensive repairs you can face as a car owner. We're talking $1,500, often more. That's a really powerful reason to be absolutely certain you're replacing the right part and that you fix the root cause first.
So, let's just sum it all up.
The code points you to the catalytic converter, but the true failure might be a $10 exhaust gasket or a bad spark plug that costs 20 bucks. The right fix is not just throwing the most expensive part at the problem and hoping for the best. It's about being a detective, following the evidence, and replacing only the part that has actually failed.
So the next time you, or a friend, sees that P0420 code, you have a choice. You can gamble, cross your fingers, and replace the most expensive part in the system. Or you can follow the diagnostic path and be the master of your machine. The choice is yours.